Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous, Oogie Boogie loving wife, Michelle.
Thank you, sweetie. Hi, everybody.
So good to have you with us. We are recording this episode on September 22nd, 2019, and we had a blast of a week going to Disneyland a couple times.
I know. It was exciting getting to meet up with some friends, but also getting to experience some new things ourselves, like a new Halloween event.
We'll be talking a little bit about both those things as we get through this episode. Mostly, we want to let you know that you can find this podcast in many different locations, but the best place to find us is on our website, HyperionAdventurespodcast.com. And while you're there, why don't you go ahead and just sign up for our newsletter? I mean, what do you got to lose? Sign up for our newsletter. It's just right there. It's easy enough. Sign up for it. Now, we actually have some cool stuff coming out through the newsletter, including something that's happening today for the first time.
Right. Some exciting things. And signing up for our newsletter, you will get firsthand information before anybody else as news comes up and things that are going on with the Hyperion Adventures podcast. And we're going to have some other fun things coming up more and more. We're just adding on. This is exciting.
Right. We're looking to find ways to get you listeners more involved in our show. Michelle's come up with some wonderful ideas on how to do that. In the first place, we'll be sharing that will be on our newsletter, but we'll also be doing it on social media as well. And you can always follow us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to discuss with us, if you just want to say hi, please email us, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And we love to hear from you, find out what things are going really well with the podcast. If you have some ideas or suggestions, sharing things, we'll always give you credit for it. But this is a great community that we have here. And we just love to, really have those opportunities to share amongst each other.
Right. By the way, thank you for all those that showed us a lot of love for our last episode, our 5 favorite Disney dance party songs. It's been one of our best downloaded episodes in the first week we've ever had. And we really appreciate your love out there for that and for us in that regard. And we also had another person who gave us their list on social media this week. And that was Abby Normal 2319, also known as @Abigail Bork, who's listened to our show and has chimed in many, many times.
Yeah, she's great on social media. You got to follow her. She's a real positive, fun person.
Right. And so she came her list as to her 5 favorite Disney dance party songs. So number 5 from her was one of yours, actually. It was That's How You Know from Enchanted.
Right.
Number 4 was Hakuna Matata from Lion King, which I don't think we mentioned, which is a slight on our regard because that should have been on our list.
Absolutely.
Number 3 was World's One Family from Tarzan.
Nice.
Number 2 was Son of Man from Tarzan. And number 1 from Abigail was Trash in the Camp from Tarzan. Abby was apparently on a pretty good Tarzan kick this week.
Yeah, she had a Tarzan adventure.
Right. So thank you, Abby, for chiming in with those. And thanks to everybody again for helping us make that episode be so popular. And we really enjoyed doing that with you. And we have many more lists to come, many more musical episode.
Yes.
We've come up with some more ideas for a few new ones just this week, as a matter of fact, and we'll get to those as we progress through this wonderful Hyperion adventure that we're going on. But for today, we've got lots of stuff for you, including new entertainment coming to the Disneyland Resort, new experiences coming to the Tokyo Disney Resort, and we get a little more information about the Festival of Holidays at the Walt Disney World Resort, but that's a little bit too far forward. Let's get back to the holiday that's a little bit closer to us, Halloween time at the Disneyland Resort, and we went on Tuesday to the debut of the first ever Oogie Boogie Bash.
Yes, and it was a blast of a bash for sure. We had an amazing time and excited to be able to share some of our favorite experiences and just impressions in general.
Right. So we went to the very first one, which was on Tuesday, September 17th. Well, we got tickets well in advance because we knew it was going to sell out. And yes, it did. And but we were lucky enough that our great friend Rob Labarre from the Jedi Temple Archives podcast and his wife Kim were heading out from where they live in Michigan to come and visit, and they were going, and we weren't going to miss out on that chance to go with them.
Yeah, so it's definitely fun going with some friends, but it was an event that I would think anybody, whether you're family with kids, all adults, you're going to have a great time there.
Yes. So if you get these tickets, and hopefully many of you do have these booked in the next coming weeks, they are doing them a couple times a week leading up until we get to Halloween, of course. So hopefully you have those tickets. And if you do, though, hopefully you know that you can get into the park at 3 p.m. That's when the tickets allow you to get in. We have annual passes. We got into the park a little bit earlier than that, so we took advantage of that. And we went and got a spot at the Lamplight Lounge, which was almost walk-in, which is crazy for the Lamplight Lounge.
Right, yeah. That was such a special treat to be able to get in there without any really wait.
Yeah, hardly at all. I mean, they said it was going to be 10, 15 minutes or whatever. It ended up being like 3 minutes.
Right.
We basically walked in there, and then when Kim and Rob got in, we had a spot there. And we kind of, just started out the night, with a little bit of appetizers, a couple cocktails, and just kind of got ourselves ready for the fun that was going to happen in the evening.
Yeah. And it was interesting being there and in the park a little earlier because you were experiencing the park like you would normally throughout a regular day. I mean, they did have, still the Halloween overlays in some of the attractions, but it's funny because as soon as the park closed officially for people who weren't going to be at the Oogie Boogie Bash and the ones who were staying, it closed at 6. And the music changed, the lighting changed. It was like, okay, we're transforming this into the party. And, people who weren't staying at the Oogie Boogie Bash were quickly, kind of guided out. And it was a little different than some of the other nighttime ones where people who have been in the park already could stay for shopping, for 30 to 60 minutes a lot of times. And in this particular case, that wasn't the situation. They actually had people in the front of the stores who weren't letting people into the stores after 6 o'clock.
Yeah, some of the ones that are closer to what Disney California Adventure's hub is kind of at the end there. They kind of were blocking them off. There were still some shops that were open a little bit closer to the entryway, but they were trying to limit it pretty quickly and get people moving. But yeah, you're right. 6 p.m. That music changed immediately.
Yes.
Like it was 6. You're like, there was no doubt about it. Oogie Boogie came on. You're like, oh yeah, okay.
That's right.
I guess the party has
starting.
begun. Yes. So we went ahead and did that. Rob and Kim, I know they were looking to get some of the limited edition merchandise for Oogie Boogie, so they lined up for that first of all, and then we went over and while they were doing that, we saw a relatively short line to get your picture taken in front of the Headless Horseman statue that they had placed there. So we took advantage of that.
Yeah, it was great doing that. They had a lot of great photo ops areas throughout the park. Some of them were, the more common people that you would think of in terms of villains and things, but they also had some unique ones. They had, Kingdom Hearts represented there as well.
Yeah, first time I've seen Kingdom Hearts really there's been some there's pins and a few other things, but really represented in the parks was interesting.
Yeah, and and a lot of them obviously would have long lines started up pretty early on in the evening and into the event. But there were some that didn't have, like you said, that long of a line. The Headless Horseman was one of them, and we saw several others throughout the evening. So it gave people opportunity if they were really, into cosplay and dressed up and wanting to get some really unique shots. They had those, more elaborate photo ops. And then if you were there and you just wanted to get something quick with your family or friends, that was available too. So it was a nice blend. I think that was even a better highlight than some of the other nighttime events that we've gone to.
Yes, it was an amazing and diverse crowd of characters that you could get your pictures taken with and some interesting backdrops. So here's just a few of them that we saw. I think there were more than what we saw, but this is what we, as we were stumbling around, kind of ran into. And that was Mickey and Minnie in their Halloween attire, of course. They had a good spot. We were just talking about Kingdom Hearts. I know I saw Goofy in his garb, his Kingdom Hearts garb. And I've seen pictures, even though we didn't see him, I've seen pictures of Donald in his Kingdom Hearts garb as well. We also saw an interesting array of villains at various different parts. Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame was there. Shan Yu from Mulan. John Ratcliffe from Pocahontas. The Sheriff of Nottingham and Prince John from Disney's animated Robin Hood were there. So some really interesting characters that you don't get opportunities to get photos with very often.
Right. Very eclectic and really made it fun. Even if you weren't standing in line, just going by and seeing them interact with other guests and everything really made the party really experience elevated.
Yeah, it was really fun and just kind of cool to walk by. Even though we didn't get in line for those, we're not really as big on getting the pictures taken. A lot of times, especially with lines, we kind of like to take advantage of that time and experience more of the park. But there were a lot of people who were getting a kick out of it. Photo pass is included in the price of the admission. So whether, we have annual passes, but even if you don't, you get your pictures from that night. Yeah. So that's nice as well. So you take advantage of that. If you like getting your photos taken, take advantage of that while you're out at the Oogie Boogie Bash or the Not So Scary, as a matter of fact, Walt Disney World Resort. Yeah. So as far as the rest of the night, they did have the parade that they traditionally have. It's a little bit different here on the West Coast than the Boo-to-You parade that's at Mickey's Not So Scary, but it was really cool. We didn't actually attend it very much, but we did see some glimpses of it as we were walking around. We were kind of taking advantage of that time when everybody's at the parade to kind of do a few other things.
Yeah.
But we did see it looked like it was great. It looked like it was fun. Some cool floats. I know we saw a Haunted Mansion float, and yes, they had the grave diggers out there with their shovels, and they do that dance where they rang it against the concrete and create the sparks and everything, which is always really cool to see.
Yeah, it was. And they also had a dinner package if people wanted to get special VIP areas to observe the parade. That was available too. And I think they even had some opportunities that evening if you hadn't made a reservation in advance. So that's something too that people may want to take into consideration to do.
Yeah, if you want to get that great spot on the parade route, that's a possibility. But there were, we saw it's a long parade route, so there were lots of great spots available for you. You did have to get there a little early, but still pretty good. We did see a little glimpse of the Descend Dance party. Actually, we're just stopping over there because I was hungry again, because that's me. I'm always hungry. And it happened to be right by the stage, and we were watching it. And we're really not into the Descendants movie or anything, but it looked like for the little ones that are really into it, which I know a lot of them are out there, that they were having a good old time, and it was the music was hopping, and it looked really fun.
Right. I was super impressed actually with that. And you're right. We're not big into that series, but I do think it was a great alternative to have, especially for tweens or, maybe even a little younger than tweens. But that troupe of dancers was the most impressive dancers I've ever seen at a Disney event. And that's I'm not talking things that are like on TV, specials and things like that, but just being at a Disney park dancing, they were really impressive, really phenomenal.
We only saw them for a few minutes, but we were very impressed by what we saw for sure.
Yeah, they were very acrobatic.
Yes. So those are the couple things we only kind of experienced in passing a little bit, but we did get to check out a lot of the other things that were part of this event that were really great, and we were more kind of involved in them. And one of the things I really enjoyed was going through Villains Grove.
Over in Grizzly Peak.
Over in the Redwood Creek area. If you know Disney California Adventure Park at all, there's an area that's it's actually made for kind of activities for the young ones to kind of do some things in and amongst like redwood trees and learn about nature and try some rock climbing, and they have some rope bridges and everything. But this night for this, they shut it down, and they put a lot of fog and lighting and a lot of different musical effects and a lot of projections that really brought this area alive, and was just kind of a cool little area to just kind of walk through and see different things projected on the walls, the trees, all this different area.
Yeah, I mean, they really did well getting like an eerie tone or feel to it. They had really spectacular use of lasers and lights, like you're saying with the fog there, bouncing some things off and getting some different imagery through that. You totally would not have recognized where it was, when you're looking at it. It was a complete transformation of the area and very immersive, really hit a lot of different senses and made it really special. And loved being able to get some unique pictures and see that imagery that they had produced.
Right. It was just a blast. That trail was one of my highlights of the night. I really enjoyed walking through there. I just thought it had that Halloween feel without being ridiculously scary, but
Right.
it just kind of had these cool effects with, like you said, the fog and the lighting. They had some candelabras there. They were adding some effect to it as
Right.
well. It was just really cool.
Yeah, a lot of different Halloween themes throughout it. And, each segment had a little bit of a different, genre to it or what they were trying to really do. And it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We did hit up the treat trails as well, where you get to do
Yeah.
the trick or treating, which is one of the benefits of going to this. And they really outdid themselves with the trails themselves, which were a lot of fun, but how much candy we walked away with. My back is still sore because they give you a trick or treat bag, and it's kind of a little trick or treat bag. You fill that thing up in the first couple trails you hit, and then we started dumping it in the backpack I was carrying around. Oh my goodness, we had so much candy.
Yeah, they really did well with all that. And it's nice that they had a fruit option
Yes,
at a
that's
lot
true.
of the places.
We took that a lot.
I did take some.
You
Yeah.
did take some.
But it was very well themed. I was expecting it to be just a little bit more of a walking path, and you'd get some candy. I liked that they had all the candy in cauldrons at each of the locations, but that they really did put a lot into the theming of it, and it made it really fun. I was like, wow. And I don't think we hit 100% of them. I think we hit most of them. It was also cool that they had one specific for annual pass holders.
Yes, that was, if you don't know, if you're an annual pass holder and you're going, there's a specific area. It's actually, we only stumbled across it because, shocking, I was hungry again, and we went and got a corn dog at the Corn Dog Castle, and right next to that was where that is. And we're like, oh, there's an annual pass holder
Right.
little treat trail as well, and where you get a special magnet for the event. So if you are an annual pass holder and you were going, make sure you hit that up while you're there. But yeah, each treat trail was themed to a different villain. So at some point during the trail, you would run across one of the villains.
Right.
So it was like the evil queen from Snow White, Maleficent, Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog. Of course, Oogie Boogie was holding court at one area
Right.
as well. And it was just kind of a fun addition to each spot you went through, and all the characters were great. They were there, and they were totally interactive with the people that would come by with them.
Right. That's what I was just going to say. They were mic'd up, and they were able to really make some connections with the people who were coming through, and it just made it a lot more interesting to be walking these paths and seeing those villains, and actually just that they were continually talking and having some type of interactions with different people throughout the trail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the most fun parts, and not what I was expecting necessarily when we were on the treat trails. I expected we'd get a couple things of candy,
Right.
and then we exit out. But it was really fun to go down those trails, and like I said, I was shocked at how much. Not only because I expected there'd be one or two candy stops on each of these trails. Each one of them, when I thought the candy would be done, there'd be like 2 or 3 more kettles to hand you more candy. It was insane.
Right. So that was really impressive.
Yeah. So that was really well done. But what was my favorite part from this night was the new version of World of Color made specifically for this event, entitled Villainous. It was magnificent. It was beautiful. World of Color is arguably my favorite nighttime spectacular that Disney does. And this one's tough to be topped because it was really, really well done.
Right. I agree with you completely. I actually think I liked it, maybe just because it was new. I liked it better than the regular World of Color. It was really creative how they incorporated many of the villains coming together in a new storyline, and no spoilers here. We won't give it away, but it was really a sweet surprise, saying, wow, obviously we've talked about it in the past that the projections are spot on the water. And so that, carried over to this as well. But just having that new creative storyline made it so fun.
Yeah, and they did create a brand new character for this. I know they've talked about it. I'm not spoiling anything really because they've talked about this on their different posts about this. And her name is Shelley Marie, and she was adorable and played very well in the story. And it was very well tied together because of her to tell this story of these various villains. And it was really interesting. And I think that when you get out there and get to go see this, you're going to really, really enjoy it.
The way they did it, where it did bring out the villains and their evil side, but not scary even for little kids, I don't think. I think just the storyline and how they did it made it, themed well enough to be with the Halloween event, but not so scary that somebody with little kids would not be able to really appreciate it.
That's one of the great things about these parties with Disney is there's a reason why over at Walt Disney World it's called the Mickey's Not So Scary.
Right.
Because yes, I mean, they want to have that little bit of edge to it. They want to have a little bit of it, but they want it to be fun for all ages. They don't want to go there and then the kids are just having a horrible time or frightened to turn any corner because it's scary or so. And they want that little bit of edge to it where it's just a little bit frightening, but not so frightening.
Right.
Not so scary. Exactly. So again, totally enjoyed the whole thing. It was not so scary fun. I don't know. Were there any other highlights you can think of that we hit out there?
Well, I think you covered all the things that we were doing or interacted in that way, but I just really wanted to shout out for the wonderful immersive Halloween ambiance that they created. And I always thought just going through the parks as their normal Halloween decorations was pretty immersive already. But this night just took it to a whole new level. I mean, for example, just things like the sounds of the Headless Horseman riding, the reflections on the buildings were incredible.
Yeah, the projections that were up there were amazing, like on Carthay Circle.
Right. I was just going to say, Carthay Circle looked like entirely different in what they had. And, the music playing, whether it was like Nightmare Before Christmas, different songs or just other sounds and everything. It was crazy fun.
Yeah, we had a great time. It was a blast being out there. We're glad we got to be part of the first one because I hear that they, at least from Rob told me, they cut back a little on the candy the next couple nights. I think they gave us too much the first night, so they're like, we're gonna reel it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But he still said he went to get a second night. We're about to have him on actually, and he'll tell you a little bit about that, I think. But he got to go a second night, so we got to experience it 2 nights. Cool. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, bottom line, I had a great time. I would recommend. I mean, I know there's not tickets available anymore, but hopefully you've already purchased your tickets and you're going to get to go. And if not, hopefully they do this again next year or something similar to it, and you take advantage of it when it comes because it was a blast. And that I didn't mind. Yes, we have annual passes and we can go to the park whenever we want, but I didn't mind the extra fee because it was that much fun.
I agreed with that. Yeah, and it was fun seeing how they were doing something at Disney California Adventure. I mean, I know that typically these Halloween events have been at Disneyland Resort Park, but they did a great job. I think they used the space really cool to bring out the villains and all the excitement and Halloween theming.
Yeah. It was a great time, and it wasn't that late at night either. I mean, because they wrapped it up at 11. We've been at some of the nighttime events; they don't wrap up till 1 a.m., and that's really a late drive back to San Diego for us. But 11 p.m. was not so bad. I mean, we still got back late, but it was pretty good. And, and also it was a school night, so it was late for the kids, but not crazy late. So,
right. So a lot of more littler kids, like toddlers and things, preschoolers. Yeah.
Yep. So good time. We hope you get to experience it either coming up in the next few weeks or possibly in the future if they keep it around for another year or two. And I don't see why they wouldn't because it was a blast.
Yeah. Well worth the money.
Well
I would
worth
say.
the money.
Very, very much
well worth the money. So excellent. So that's it for our main topic of the week. But we have another big topic. As a matter of fact, it's a brand new segment of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. We're so excited to bring this to you. And here is Michelle with some more of the details.
Right, thanks. Well, so we wanted to really get to explore what everybody's Disney adventures are of the week. And that could be something as grand as what we're going to share with you today, because we have a special guest on, Rob, to tell us about his first time at Disneyland. But we also know that it's really fun for even the smaller Disney adventures, like when you get your magic bands in the mail for your upcoming trip. And so we really want to add this feature to our episodes and really get to hear what you are doing on a weekly basis to really experience and have a wonderful Disney adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want to hear from you. We know you have little pieces of Disney in your life that excite you. It could be as easy as, like Michelle said, getting your magic band or booking a new trip, or it could be something gigantic like a huge family celebration.
Right.
Some pixie dust was sprinkled on you when you were at the parks from Disney Cruise Line. Whatever it is, we want to hear about it. And each week we are going to pick one adventure to share on the show. And this week, we're excited to kick it all off with one of our amazing friends who has been part of this show many, many times over and is an OG Hyperion adventurer, was listening from the beginning, and he just made an incredible trip along with his lovely wife, Kim, to the Disneyland Resort. And of course, we're talking about our great friend, Rob Labarre from the Jedi Temple Archives podcast. Rob, thanks for joining us for our brand new segment today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. Been a long time coming and finally got a chance to get out there and experience the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, it was so good for us to get a chance to actually experience it with you. As a matter of fact, that was a lot of fun for us, and we just had a great time. So
yeah, such an honor. And it's always so much more enjoyable when you get to go along with somebody on their first experience at Disneyland. So it was a special treat, especially for us too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great having you guys along. My wife, Kim, is from Riverside area originally, so she is familiar with Disneyland Park and the Disneyland Resort area, but it's been quite a while since she'd been out there, so a lot had changed. They didn't have Disney's California Adventure when she was last out there, and the area itself had changed quite a bit. So having a couple people who were regulars and familiar with the park and kind of were able to give us a good first first experience with it was great, and it just made it that much easier to navigate the rest of the week we were there.
That's great. I'm glad we were there to help, and it was just good spending some time with you. And we had a couple of dates to spend some time with you, which was a lot of fun. So let's just talk about the whole trip in general. We'll start with you just getting there. You live in Michigan, so you had to get from Michigan to Orange County to Southern California. Talk about the flights. Talk about getting from the airport finally to the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, I mean, we flew out of Detroit, which is about an hour and 15-minute drive from Lansing, where we live. And, that's always kind of preferable for me to doing a more local airport and having to do that connecting flight, because we tend to go through Detroit anyway. So it just removes the chance of there being any connection issues with the flight and being delayed from getting home when you're only an hour plus away from there. But the flight out there, we did a nonstop flight out. Actually, we had scheduled nonstop out and back, flying into John Wayne Airport, which was super close to Disneyland Resort. And that went pretty well. The only kind of hiccup there was I thought I'd gotten us some exit row seats, and I had actually gotten the row directly in front of the exit row. Ooh. So we had the restricted recline seats. So that was an unusual mistake for me to make, being 6'4". But again, it was the excitement. Yeah, excitement of getting out there and getting to experience the parks, and especially to meet up with you guys and be able to go into Galaxy's Edge was enough to kind of mute any issues that I was going to have with that flight.
Nice,
that's good. So you flew into John Wayne, so in Orange County itself, so not that far actually from the Disneyland Resort. How did you go about actually getting there? Did you use a ride share, or did you rent a car? What did you do?
Yeah, we actually, I looked once we got to the airport. We were, originally we were going to rent a vehicle. The hotel reservation we had, we could have a free parking for one vehicle. But kind of as we looked at it, we were really focusing all of our attention on Disneyland Resort, and we were staying super close. So there was really no need for a vehicle other than to get to and from the airport. So we decided to go with, I think we did Lyft both ways is what it turned out to be. And that was just based on price comparison when we got there. And it was super smooth. I mean, it was 15, 20-minute drive maybe from the airport to our hotel. We stayed at the Grand Legacy at the park, which was virtually right across from the Esplanade entrance there. So
Right.
It was a great, just a great setup, super close, super easy to get everywhere. And I can't recommend it highly enough.
Nice. Those are one of the good neighbor hotels that Disney promotes. Like, you can find them right on their website. Yes, there are the 3 Disney Resort hotels on site, of course, but there are plenty of other really nice hotels within very close distance, in many regards closer than some of the actual Disney Resort hotels
Right.
to there. And they range in price, but you could find a lot of great ones out there. And I'm glad you and Kim found a nice one that you got to stay in. You enjoyed the hotel, okay?
Yeah, the hotel was great. It was a very large room, which was kind of a nice surprise. I had done quite a bit of research just trying to figure out where we wanted to stay, and this was certainly a highly rated hotel, super close, as I said, to the entrance to kind of the Esplanade there between Disneyland Park and Disney's California Adventure Park. So I think we were maybe a block away. And they had a rooftop lounge kind of down the main building called the Fifth, which was kind of a gathering place and kind of a fun place to go. We didn't end up doing that just because they tended to have quite a crowd up there every evening that we were around. But really, I guess my only complaint with the room would have been that it had unusually small toilets.
I saw the toilet. It
Huge
is tiny.
bathroom.
It is a Barbie doll toilet. I'm
I saw
telling you.
no problem with that.
Yeah, it was
Like-
Michelle's-sized toilet.
They got a kid's potty.
Right.
But they none of the hotels around there really have huge pools. This one had a pretty decent pool in the courtyard, and it was fairly kind of screened off from the parking lot, about as well as you could be expected, given that it was kind of in the middle of the parking lot. But it was one of the nicer pools that I saw in the area. They had a hot tub. Our room actually had a jacuzzi tub as well,
nice.
which is really nice. Which was kind of one of the reasons I ended up booking that room.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great, and like we're saying, that there are a lot of opportunities to find a great resort in that area, even if you're not staying at one of the Disneyland resorts. So
Right.
sounds like you hit a winner, and it's a good one to know to add on to our consideration list too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at the prices for the hotels that are, proper to Disneyland, be it Disneyland Hotel or Paradise Pier or Grand Californian, you're talking a pretty pricey premium. And as you mentioned, Tom, some of them aren't any closer walking distance than the hotel that we stayed at. So I figure what we ended up staying to spend there 8 nights would have been roughly 2 nights at the Grand Californian.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah.
it was a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah. Score.
We knew we were going to be doing a lot more shopping on this trip than we typically do. We get down to Walt Disney World pretty regularly. We're annual pass holders there. So the merchandise doesn't change enough down there for us to do any major shopping. But with this trip and it being something that we don't do that regularly, and of course Galaxy's Edge being thrown in,
Yeah.
we did a lot of shopping
Nice.
for us. And so being able to save that money on the hotel kind of freed us up to have a little bit more fun with our shopping.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So you finally you're there at the hotel. You've flown in. You're there, and you finally get to walk into the Disneyland Resort. What were your first impressions when you actually got there? I know the first day you didn't actually end up going into the parks, but you had a little bit of a look at downtown Disney and some of the other areas. What were your impressions?
I was really pleasantly surprised with downtown Disney. It was I'd done some research and kind of knew that they had that esplanade out between the two parks, and to actually get out there and see that was really cool. Obviously, both parks were, the entrances were nicely decorated for the Halloween season, and we had a couple of Oogie Boogie Bash parties, including the one that we did with you guys that
Yeah.
we had on the slate. So it was really exciting to see the parks kind of decked out in their holiday decor. And then walking through into downtown Disney, it was a little bit more unseasonably warm, I guess, for us the first couple of days we were
Right.
there. But despite that, it was a Friday night when we arrived. Downtown Disney area was pretty packed and kind of getting busier as time went on, with everyone down there for their dining reservations and just kind of enjoying the weekend with all the locals coming in. But we ended up going to the Craftsman Bar and Grill there at the Grand Californian, which I would highly recommend to anybody, especially if you're looking for a place to grab a quick bite if you don't have a reservation on a weekend. Super relaxing, poolside. Even with the heat, we were in the shade, and it was pretty comfortable, and the food was incredible.
Cool. Did you have a favorite dish that you tried?
All of them. I think we actually ended up eating there twice on this trip. The first day we were there, and then the last night we were there. The first time I think we did the Wagyu beef sliders and
nice.
The double beef nachos, which were both amazing. And then the second trip we went there, we got there was kind of some sticky wings, which were really good. And then we had the lobster quesadilla, which, my wife was like, we have to try that. And that was incredible.
Yeah, we got that.
Lots of lobster in that.
Yeah.
We got that because we did takeout from there when we were there a couple weekends ago with our son Scott. And so since he wasn't really into hanging out there at the restaurant, we've got some takeout from there and took it back to the room. And the lobster quesadilla was very good.
Really
we enjoyed
good.
it.
Yeah, and then we had kind of like a marinated chicken skewer that was kind of some Middle Eastern type spices, and that was delicious as well. So we were very happy with all the food we had there. We had a number of different cocktails that were all delicious, and it was just super relaxing way to spend an evening.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's cool because that's a fairly new
Just
restaurant
opened
that
a few
just
months
opened.
ago. Yeah.
Right. So awesome. So how was it then when you finally got to go through the entrance of Disneyland Resort for the first time?
Well, it was really awesome for me. I'd been looking forward to this trip for an awfully long time. Disney kind of came to me later. I didn't really take my first family Walt Disney World trip until I was 18 years old, and had gone a number of times to Walt Disney World kind of during my 20s and 30s. But really, when I married my current wife, Kim, we both have a love of Disney that has just evolved from shared experiences there.
Cool.
We got married at Walt Disney World back in 2016. We've talked about that on a previous podcast. And, I always have loved going to Walt Disney World Resort, but certainly with Disneyland Resort being the place that started it all, Walt's initial vision and the fact that he walked that park, it was going to be super special to get to experience those parks from that perspective. And I also was excited about the fact that, there's different attractions out there that we don't have at Walt Disney World Resort, plus the attractions that are the same between the two parks, just to be able to see how they were implemented differently. And I'm sure we'll get into that as we talk here, but I was more than pleasantly surprised by how everything kind of shook out there at the Disneyland Resort. I'm very impressed by the attractions and the parks in general.
That's cool because I know a lot of times newbies there feel like things look so much smaller and it may have a different illusion to them when they first arrive. So I'm glad to hear that you really were able to appreciate the history there and the impressive use of space that they have been able to implement there.
For sure. And I give you guys a lot of credit for that as well. I mean, certainly my wife, knew a lot about kind of how the park was laid out and that it was smaller than Walt Disney World. But you guys have covered that pretty extensively in previous podcasts, especially when you did your series on, Walt Disney World for the Disneyland Resort cast and vice versa. And
Thanks.
I never felt any disappointment. I know the parks are smaller than what we have down in Florida. And I'll always consider Florida kind of my home park. But the quality and the way that everything was approached at Disneyland Resort was it was impressive. I love the rides that we didn't have down at Disney or Walt Disney World Resort. And the overarching theme that we kept running into on the trip is that even the ones that were the same between the two parks generally were done better at Disneyland. And it was just really fun to kind of see that attention to detail. And, my wife, Kim, kept saying, you got to realize that down here in Southern California, there are so many entertainment options within, 30, 50 mile radius that they have to do everything better to keep the locals coming back. And that was certainly in evidence.
Very true. And we're so glad you enjoyed it so much and could see what we see in Disneyland Park and notice the differences between that and Walt Disney World and, just take it for what it is and enjoy it for what it is. Now, so your impressions of it were, it was better than maybe, I don't know what you expected going in, but better than you expected or kind of what you expected going in?
Oh, it was better. It was totally better for me than what I had expected going in. I expected that I was going to love it regardless. I love Disney parks and the Imagineering and the thought that goes into everything, even right down to the names on the windows as you're walking down Main Street. Or, we were talking with Michelle while we were out there that we had rented a locker one of the first days that we were there. I think it was Monday, because we met up with you guys for the Halloween party on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of in that little cul-de-sac off Main Street, and we had gotten a beverage from the Starbucks, and we're kind of sitting there and relaxing and cooling off a little bit. And you could hear the piano teacher upstairs just kind of yelling at her frustrating pupil, and we were getting a laugh out of that. So there's just so many cool little details to the park. And I know that they have similar things at Walt Disney World, but while Main Street was smaller than what I'm familiar with, I felt like it was a lot more intimate, and the detail was just exceptional.
Cool.
Nice. So what would you say were the highlights of your week-long adventure to Disneyland Resort?
Well, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that knows anything about me that Galaxy's Edge was always a huge highlight. And, I felt like that was even better because of the fact that I had held off. I had the opportunity to go down to Walt Disney World for an annual pass holder preview. I'd gotten tickets for that, and certainly had kind of toyed around with it in my head, but it was going to be an unnecessary expense for something that I was going to get to do only 3 weeks later. And we talked about the fact that we were going to go into that park with you guys on that first Saturday we were there and get to experience it with you. And that was something that I didn't want to throw away.
We appreciate that,
it's even more special because we got to do it with you guys, but the detail was everything that I had hoped for. I felt like I could, spend hundreds of hours in there and still be picking things up. And, so that was awesome. The food was delicious. The theming was great. The interactivity with the Play Disney app, all of those things were wonderful. But in regards to the rest of the park, certainly the Halloween theming and the Haunted Mansion holidays, I think would probably be one of the other huge highlights of that trip.
Nice.
That is a spectacular part that they do out each year, and I know we've talked about this in the past too, that what's really wonderful is it's such a unique way to bring out the holiday celebrations of Halloween, but then it does have that Christmas theme to it as well, so having that be able to really appreciate both holidays is a ton of fun.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion is my wife's favorite attraction, and it's certainly right up there at the top of my list as well. And we both love Nightmare Before Christmas, and as you mentioned, I mean, to be able to have something that you can theme it for Halloween, but it also pours right over into Christmas time is really an awesome little benefit of that. And it was far better than even I had expected. I'd seen videos of it on YouTube. They don't do it justice. The level of detail and you look at it and you're like, how can they theme this as quickly as they do? I know they have all the stuff ready. I know they've done it before, and it's down to a science for them, but there is so much detail that goes into that overlay. And I want it at Walt Disney World, and I'm going to throw a tantrum if they don't give it to me.
And it's funny because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they took less time to put it together this year because they're really kind of holding back for the 50th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion. So they only had usually they give it like 4 weeks to put up that overlay, and I think this year they did it in like 2 weeks. And still, we were there in the first week, and it was spectacular to see, just as good as it always is. So we're so glad you got to see that, and that was the first attraction we went on with Rob and Kim.
Right.
And that was so much fun.
So you also got to enjoy the inaugural Oogie Boogie Bash.
Yeah, I think we ended up doing 2 of the parties. The first one on Tuesday we did with you and Michelle, or with you and Tom, obviously, and we had an awesome time. And the funny thing was, I didn't feel like on either of our visits we didn't focus like super heavy on any of the trick-or-treating. We certainly did the trick-or-treat trails so we could experience those. And one of the big thumbs up I have to give to the inaugural Oogie Boogie Bash is that the way that they did the treat trails, I've done the Halloween party at Walt Disney World, and it was shorter treat trails. I mean, you'd go in and maybe there'd be 2 places they were handing out candy before you came out the backside of that treat trail. at Disneyland Resort, what we were experiencing was that they were much longer treat trails. Most of them would have probably between 6 and 8 different stops along the way where they'd hand out candy.
Right.
And then kind of in the middle of that circuit, they were all themed after a particular villain. So you'd have the Evil Queen or Maleficent or Dr. Facilier and certainly Oogie Boogie,
Right.
Which was highlight. But I just loved that. The way that they were laid out, I just thought it was so much more interactive, I guess, than what I was used to at Walt Disney World Resort.
Right.
And I was definitely in love with that. I thought the World of Colors Villainous was incredible. We actually didn't end up getting to see regular World of Color. We were starting much earlier than we expected to, and not staying in the parks as late. But it was, the whole party was awesome. We did get to go back on the second party and see the parade, which again, smaller than what I was used to at Walt Disney World, but so much tighter and more detailed. And just absolutely loved the way that they did that parade.
Nice.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see the parade much. I mean, we got a little peek of it when we were
Glimpses.
walking around,
Right.
but we didn't really get to check it out. So it wasn't part of our review we gave earlier. But your thoughts, that you talked about the parade being tighter, and just a little more detail. Any other details you want to talk about the parade a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the only, obviously having done the parade at Walt Disney World in the past, and I know Boo to You at Walt Disney World is very popular with a lot of the guests, but my wife and I are kind of a similar mind on it, that there are a lot of floats that they've kind of thrown into the Boo to You parade that are a little disjointed. They've got the Vanellope driving the
Right.
kind of giant gumball machine, which then they just kind of flip over to Goofy driving it for the Christmas parade. And this year they had added a number of other character floats, including the Incredibles and Toy Story. And they just kind of seem to be thrown in there to lengthen the parade. They didn't really seem like thematically to fit very well.
Sure.
And like I said, I mean, the parade at Disneyland Resort is very much themed after Halloween. Haunted Mansion, you've got the grave diggers with their shovels, you've got the ghostly dancers, you've got the super cool vampire driven individual, they're like mini floats, I guess you'd call them.
Right.
And then certainly like the mayor's car
Right.
from Nightmare Before Christmas was certainly a highlight of it. So, and you've got some of your famous Disney characters, the Fab Five in their Halloween costumes. So that was really cool. But, it wasn't as long, but I just felt like it was a much more quality parade.
Cool.
Right, that's great. So, bottom line, what would you say about an adventure, a vacation to the Disneyland Resort versus a vacation and adventure to the Walt Disney World Resort?
For me, I mean, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Like I said, we had 5-day park hopper tickets, and then we did the additional 2 days where we had done the Oogie Boogie Bash, which kind of gave us some additional time in the parks. And we were out there for 8 total days. We did have some of our time spent visiting my wife's family that lives out there, and certainly some time with you guys. But, even in 5 days in the parks, 5+ days in the parks with the Halloween parties, there were still a lot of things that I didn't get to do. I didn't get to ride Splash Mountain, which I never would have expected to be the case. So that's going to have a pin put in it for next time. But what I would say is that, kind of as I mentioned before, the level of detail and almost every attraction that I rode, I liked better than its Walt Disney World counterpart. The only exception that jumps out at me is Big Thunder Mountain. I thought the theming was better on the Disneyland Big Thunder Mountain, but I think that the coaster itself is better at Walt Disney World.
Agreed.
But God, the Indiana Jones, theming of what would be Dinosaur at Walt Disney World was so much better. The Tiki Room, I love the Tiki Room. Certainly an iconic attraction there. And, the Haunted Mansion, I like the New Orleans style. I love the holiday overlay. And I could ride the Incredicoaster all day. So I want that at Walt Disney World.
So,
certainly it belongs out in California. It's
Yeah.
definitely an iconic place out there on Pixar Pier. But
Right.
just I love the food. I love the cast members. I love the interaction that I saw with the characters and the guests. Much more of that, and not like crazy lines either.
Right.
So it was really a more intimate experience, I guess, is what I would call it.
What did you think about Mission Breakout as compared to the Tower of Terror?
For me, I love the theming. I think that the Marvel franchise and everything they've done with that with the films has been incredible. We preferred the daytime version of it to the Monsters After Dark version of it, just because we thought the scenes were funnier. But I love that theming, and that's not to take anything away from the Tower of Terror at Walt Disney World. I mean, the Twilight Zone stuff is classic, and I'll always love that as well. But I've just been so pro Marvel lately that it was great, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with Avengers Campus when that opens out there.
Yeah, so you'll have to come back out.
Yeah, just for that.
Well, we could be convinced.
And you like the food a lot more. You're raving many times with us about the food at the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, I'd be 900 pounds if I had access to those corn dogs. I mean, the corn dogs, the churros.
Right.
I'd never been a big fan of the churros that they do at Walt Disney World, and now that I've had a proper churro, I get why, I guess. But even the meals that we had in the restaurants, and we did do a Napa Rose experience with Kim's mom and stepfather, and that was wonderful. So I'd highly recommend that to anyone. We're going to do the chef's counter if we go back. I'm pretty sure
cool.
we'll have the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've noticed over the last, year or so is that even at the quick service restaurants at Disneyland Resort, that they've really upped the game. They have more unique sauces and more, just the level of ingredients that they're using seems to have really elevated the quality of those dishes.
Yeah, and I think it bears noting, and I've heard this elsewhere, but when Walt Disney World did the Avatar Land, the World of Pandora down there at the Animal Kingdom Park, that really kind of elevated counter service food, in my opinion. And they have definitely towed the line with that, with what they have implemented within Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
We didn't bother with the snacks at Oga's Cantina, but I was very happy with all the beverages that we had. I mean, they were certainly pricey, but I'd pay that same amount of money for a drink at Paddlefish at Disney Springs down at Disney World. I think it was, it's crazy, but it's not, beyond the pale crazy. And to have a drink in that environment was super cool. I did get the Rancor Tooth beer flight set, which it's going to be part of my podcast studio, I think.
Nice.
But I mean, the Ronto wraps. I want more Ronto wraps. Those things are delicious. And we're gonna be down at Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World coming up in December, and we're definitely gonna be doing some eating at Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo. So, but you and I mean, when we were there that first Saturday, we stopped in and had breakfast at the Red Rose Tavern, and my wife ordered a veggie hash that I was not excited about at all, and it was delicious.
Yeah. I mean, because
she knows best. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Right.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, come on.
Right.
We know Kim knows best.
Did you feel like you had? Well, I mean, taking Galaxy's Edge out of the equation, between California Adventure Park or Disneyland Park, did you feel like there was a more favored one for you?
It would be hard to pick one that I would say is a favorite. Like I said, I mean, DCA, we loved the Cars Land, and neither of us are huge Cars movie fans. But the Radiator Springs Racers and even Mater's Junkyard Jamboree that we did were a ton of fun, and it is so well themed. And we talked about kind of how they've done the backdrop with the mountainous backdrop, both in Galaxy's Edge and in Cars Land, and it is just so. It's just an incredible the perception of depth that they have created there is amazing. But the Redwood Forest area, it's definitely California themed. It didn't do a whole lot for me. I would have to probably give the nod to Disneyland Park just because it is iconic. It is. It is certainly more of the dark ride attractions. The fact they had Hyperspace Mountain overlay still in place, which I was not expecting, was a huge plus. I was so excited to be able to experience that.
Very cool.
And just loved everything about Disneyland Park.
Nice.
Nice.
So do you have any suggestions for anybody out there who's never experienced the Disneyland Resort, maybe is heading there for the first time or is used to the Walt Disney World Resort and may get to experience it sometime soon? Do you have any suggestions since you've just gone through that for them on their first visit?
Yeah, I mean, I was very happy with kind of how we ended up approaching our trip, staying at one of the Good Neighbor hotels and saving that money over staying at a Disney owned and operated hotel. I think is, unless money's no option for you, is a great way to open up the ability to take and spend that money elsewhere, be it on merchandise or on other experiences like we did with the Oogie Boogie Bash. Doing 2 of those parties took all the pressure off for feeling like we had to cram everything in one night.
Right. That's
and, doing the park hopper tickets, I would absolutely recommend. The Max Pass option is a great way, especially if you've got anyone in your party. If you've got small children or people with any kind of a mobility issue where running around to get fast passes at the kiosks is something that's going to be a problem, definitely do the Max Pass. It got to the point where by the end of the week, I forgot we could just go get the paper ones at the kiosk because Max Pass was so handy. And plus it gives you access to your PhotoPass photos. So that was a huge perk as well. But, it doesn't require the planning that a Walt Disney World vacation requires, which was kind of a nice twist. I felt like it was more relaxing in that regard. But, if you're staying at any of the Good Neighbor hotels, it's an easy walk to the parks, and the parks are smaller. So you can certainly get a lot done with less miles walked, although that was not my experience. I'm just used to doing a lot of walking when I go on vacation. So that isn't a problem. But and certainly the advice that I gave earlier about if you're looking for a place to eat on a Friday or a weekend when it's kind of busy and hard to get a reservation anywhere else, check out that Craftsman Grill, Bar and Grill at the Grand Californian Resort, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, very cool. Great advice.
Is there anything that you wished you had done or you really wish you had done more of while you were there? Or differently, yeah.
Yeah, I spent the first probably half to 2/3 of the trip trying really hard not to let myself get on California time because I knew it was going to be an adjustment going back. And as a result, like I said, I was up very early most mornings. I would go off and get coffee and come back. And, even Kim was getting up early for vacation. She's not generally a rope drop person. So, but the trade-off was that we were not staying out as late and experiencing kind of some of the evening entertainment in the parks. So I, if we had it all over to do over again, I would definitely spend more time in the parks in the evenings. We didn't watch the fireworks show at Disneyland Resort. We didn't see the regular World of Color. We did see the Oogie Boogie Bash villainous version, but we did get to see the Main Street Electrical Parade, which I was super happy about. I'm missing a nighttime parade at Walt Disney World so much. And there were a couple of attractions that I wish I had done or done more. We really wanted to go on Indiana Jones again, and it just didn't pan out. It just got so kind of crazy busy that last Friday we were there. But I don't have any regrets about the trip. I mean, we were able to balance family, we were able to balance friends, and we were able to balance our vacation in the parks in a way that was just perfect.
And you got to fly the Millennium Falcon a couple times.
Yes. And I learned that sometimes I just need to relax and let go. Like see that there's a 6-year-old and his mother who aren't really sure what's going on with the controls of the Falcon. I just need to expect that I'm going to be doing a lot of repairs as a mechanic. We're just going to enjoy that.
Right.
You're super important at that point.
Yes.
So that's good. That's good.
What I couldn't understand is we still got 2 containers of coaxium, which I think is what we got when we flew it.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Right. Well, that's how good an engineer you are. Because it's funny because the first time we flew it, we only got one. And ever since then, we've gotten 2. I don't know if they made it easier or what the case is, but
I do love when the cool thing about being on a version of that where we got a lot of damage to the ship was walking out into the hallway and just seeing the disaster that was the inside of the Falcon.
Right.
So, there's an upside to everything.
That's right.
And I will say this about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It is not a failed land. I will take umbrage with anyone who claims that it is. Right. I thought the land was really nicely populated. Every time we were back there, which was a lot, And, it definitely is going to be beneficial when they have that Rise of the Resistance attraction up and running, because I think it does need a second attraction. But the shopping areas and the stalls themselves are not big enough to be able to handle like super heavy crowds anyway.
Right.
So, they're clearly doing just fine back there. I've saw so many people with droids or lightsabers walking through the parks.
Right.
That to say that it's a failure is just ridiculous.
Exactly.
Preaching to the choir here. I've been saying that for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So yeah.
I don't know where people get these aerial photos with no one in the walking path, but I didn't see it.
No,
Never.
So, well, that's great. So it sounds like bottom line is you had a really, really good adventure to the Disneyland Resort, and that you're excited at some point to do it again.
Yeah, and again, I cannot thank you guys enough for coming out and spending most of a Saturday with us, and then certainly the Oogie Boogie Bash party. It was wonderful having you guys there to begin with, but also, it was like having a personal tour guide. You guys knew the best way to approach everything, and that definitely plussed our experience. So thank you guys so much.
Well, so sweet. We really appreciate it. And it was certainly our pleasure. We had a phenomenal time, and it wouldn't have been the same doing it without you. So we really appreciate to be able to do that with you.
I needed witnesses about that toilet side. Nobody would have believed it without eyewitnesses.
That's so funny.
True.
But yeah, no, we had such a great time with you, and we don't get to spend as much time as we would like with you and Kim, because every time we see you guys, we have just the best time with you, and so we were happy that we were able to get together for, the better portion of 2 days while you were here in town. But then you also got to go out there and experience it on your own and really take it all in. So we're glad that this adventure was a successful one for you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you didn't see all the stuff we did, because you probably would have been rolling your eyes.
Oh, no, not at all.
Don't do it like that. Don't do it like that. That's not.
We'd be cheering you on.
I can't believe we didn't get to see Fantasmic. We kind of had it planned for the last night, but again, the parks just got a little bit crazy, and we were our feet were pretty hammered by that point in the trip. So.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity for sure. I've seen videos of it. It looks incredible, but we'll definitely be doing that. And the next time we come out, and I've got Tom's advice about the seating at the River Bell Terrace there.
Right,
so
yeah.
Take advantage of that.
Yes.
Definitely. Maybe can try to make it for a holiday time, for Christmas holiday, because it also has a whole new different feel to it during that time of the year as well. New overlays.
Yeah. So... Well, it was great seeing you two, and we really enjoyed our time with you, and we're excited to. Unfortunately, we're going to miss you at Walt Disney World Resort by just like 2 days in December, but hopefully we're going to try and get something together for June at Walt Disney World, and that will be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You know where to find us. If we're not here, we're down there about every 3 months at this point.
Right.
So
that's right.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to it for sure.
So we've mentioned it many times, but maybe you don't know, but Rob is also the host of the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, a podcast that doesn't make you feel like a jerk. And
now there are official translators too.
That's true. Oh man, he translated some stuff from Star Wars episode of Phineas and Ferb for us that was hilarious. But Rob, please let the listeners know how they can access your podcast and how they can find you on social media.
Yeah, actually, you can find our podcast pretty much any place you listen to podcasts. So we're on all the major outlets. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Podcasts. We are on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. And if you listen to podcasts someplace and cannot find us there, please drop me a line at jtapodcast@gmail.com, and we will make sure that we get our podcast out on that platform. We can also be found on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at JTA Podcast. And I'm also going to be starting a YouTube channel here shortly with some videos that we're taking in the parks. It's going to be called JTA Parkscast. So look for that out on YouTube, and we're looking forward to bringing you guys some fun content out there as well.
Looking forward to subscribing to that channel.
Definitely.
For sure. Well, thanks again, Rob. Thanks for joining on this debut episode of my Disney-Hyperion Adventure, and also thanks for allowing us to be part of your first visit to the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had it any other way. It certainly wouldn't have been a trip out there without getting to spend some time with you guys, and I think we talked about it. We would have loved to spend more time with you, but I know that while we're on vacation, you guys are out there actually living your actual responsible adult day-to-day life. So I guess we all can't be living a life of leisure.
Not at the same time, I guess, right?
Right. And we're certainly bummed that we're going to miss you guys in December, but we've already got some ideas for next June, so hopefully we can make that work.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way to make that work because we really enjoy our time with you and Kim. So thanks for joining us today, Rob, and I'm so glad to hear that you had a great time on the West Coast, the best coast, because we love the Disneyland Resort and we love the Walt Disney World Resort too. They're both great and they're just great in their different ways. So thanks again for joining us.
A lot more if it was a 2-hour flight, I'll tell you.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. That's true. That's why we go to Disneyland so much. The flight time is really short for us to the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah.
It feels like we never even get off the ground.
I know. It's crazy. Well, thanks again, Rob. I really appreciate you joining us today. And we'll look forward to having you on the show next week because it's Star Wars Remembered Week again. Empire Strikes Back next week. So we'll look forward to having you on for that episode as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have to watch that movie. I haven't seen that one yet. So hopefully it's good.
I've heard some things. So.
Right.
All right, Rob. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And please send our love to your wonderful wife, Kim.
Will do. You guys have a great day, and thanks so much for having me on.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So thanks again to Rob Labarre, and I'm so glad that he had such a great trip with his wife, Kim, to the Disneyland Resort, and he explained it so well, and hopefully it inspires many of you to make your Disney-Hyperion Adventure trip to Disneyland as well.
Yes, and as we mentioned, this is a new segment that we're adding on, and we really want to hear about what's your Disney week like. What are some of your Disney Hyperion adventures? And, you can reach us through social media. You can email us. And I know we'll be repeating those ways a little later, as well as the beginning of the show. But we really want to hear about, what makes your week Disney special.
Yeah, just remember the hashtag #MyHyperion and we'll be looking out for that. But you can also contact us in many different ways. And like Michelle said, we will get to that later on in the show. We got into it at the beginning of the show if you want to rewind. So whatever the case may be, or skip back. I don't think people rewind anymore. They skip. Skip.
Yeah.
I like to skip too, but usually it's not with the podcast. Anyway, I digress.
Frozen.
Let's get to the Disney stories of the week. Yes, I did skip to Frozen. Yes, you're right. Lots of great stories again this week. We are getting back into action after D23 has been a few weeks behind us now, and we'll stay with the Disneyland park right now because there's some exciting new entertainment coming to the Disneyland Resort, specifically to Frontierland at Disneyland Park. Yay! This from the Disney Parks blog. This new entertainment coming to the Disneyland park. First, we'll start with a strolling magician who arrives in town this week with astonishing demonstrations of sleight of hand. He'll be found on the streets of Frontierland, aboard the Mark Twain steamboat, or mingling with patrons inside the Golden Horseshoe. So that's a little more streetmosphere fun when you're out there. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But the really great news that we're really excited about is later this fall, the Golden Horseshoe lays out the welcome mat for a pair of piano players ready to challenge one another in a good old-fashioned showdown. They'll take turns playing iconic tunes of the Old West and even take requests from the audience. Think you can stump them? You'll have to stop in and give it your best shot. Dueling pianos in the Golden Horseshoe. That is exciting news.
It is exciting. It's going to be fun. It definitely is a theme that fits into that location and a great update to the show.
Mm-hmm. We were on, I think it was another late night ticketed event last year where I think it was Disney Date Night, as a matter of fact. And they had kind of in the same general vicinity over by the Rancho del Zocalo restaurant. They had dueling pianos out there outside. It just also happened to be a cold night, and there was a great place where they had the heaters outside. So we would park ourselves there and listen. And we were just like, if they did this out here, we'd probably go attend it regularly because we love dueling pianos. And so I'm glad that they're going to add this to the Golden Horseshoe.
Yes, and if it's going to be anything like that, it was very comedic. Is that a word? It was funny.
Yes.
It was funny.
Comedic is a word.
Okay.
Yes.
So it wasn't just, show tunes or anything back and forth. There was a lot of laughs involved.
Yeah. It was a good time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they decide to do this within the Golden Horseshoe. And it's going to be interesting to see because I think that place is in a really big space.
Right.
It's going to get pretty packed in there for the first few times they show it. So it'll be interesting to see if they have some sort of package where you can get a better seat reserved for a dining package or something. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. So coming up this fall, that'll be fun.
It will be. That's great.
Let's move on across the Pacific now, and we have new details on several of the experiences that are coming to Tokyo Disneyland very soon, just coming up here in 2020.
Wow.
Right.
Looks amazing.
It does. This, again, from the Disney Parks blog, a new area entitled, quote, New Fantasyland, quote, end quote, featuring the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast attraction and the indoor Fantasyland Forest Theater will open to guests on April 15th of 2020. So we're 7 months away from that now?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's coming quickly here. The brand new additions to Tomorrowland and Toontown will open on the same day as well. So here's what's going to be involved in this. Guests can immerse themselves in the tale as old as time upon entering Belle's Village, which features Maurice's Cottage, Gaston's Fountain, restaurants, and shop. Towering high above the forest is Beauty and the Beast Castle, which houses the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast, an attraction where guests join a musical adventure in vehicles that dance in rhythm to the music from the animated film. Now, if you remember, not that long ago, some of the video from the audio animatronics of this and these really advanced hit social media, and everybody was wowed by it.
Right.
This is that attraction, and it's coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe so much is coming to all the Disney parks in 2020. That's really exciting. But yeah, this sounds like it's really going to be a killer attraction.
Yeah, I cannot wait to check that out. We are making plans eventually to go hit some of the Asian Disney parks, and of course, Disney Tokyo Resort will be one of the ones we'll be hitting up right away. Also, opening up over in Tomorrowland, they'll be opening the Happy Ride with Baymax, which I love that name, the Happy Ride with Baymax, where guests can join their own personal healthcare companion for an exciting ride that swings them round and round. So it just sounds like a lot of fun. Some great new areas that are going to be opening up at Tokyo Disneyland, and I may have to plan a trip there even sooner than we actually thought.
Maybe so, yeah.
So that's really, really cool. So moving on and back to the U.S., and we'll go over to the Walt Disney World Resort, and we have a little more information now on this year's Festival of the Holidays at the Disneyland Resort.
How fun!
Excuse me, the Walt Disney World Resort. Sorry, I've been talking about Disneyland so much today. So. Anyway, again, we'll go back to the Disney Parks blog. That's apparently where we get all our news. They announced a couple more narrators for the Candlelight Processional at Epcot. First will be film and television actress, director, and wildlife conservationist Isabella Rossellini. She will be doing the Candlelight Processional from December 8th through the 10th. And also actress, author, activist, and Oscar winner Marlee Matlin will appear on December 27th and 28th. Big names.
Wow, yes. That's fabulous.
Yeah, so if you're planning to be out there during those dates, those definitely might be a couple of narrators that you'll want to be sure and take part in, because those are some big names. And,
yeah, they'll probably go fast.
They'll probably go fast. Get that dining package and do it.
Yeah.
So, we also learned a little bit more about the holiday treats that will be available at the Festival of the Holidays, which of course is one of the best things, is the food that's going to be out there. They're going to have 13 holiday kitchens plus additional food and beverage locations, more than 25 in all across Epcot, which will serve a delectable array of bites, sips, and creative treats. Among them, you'll find your holiday tasting journey will begin possibly at the slow roasted turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, and cranberry sauce at the American holiday table. Yes, please. That just strikes that's holiday for me right there. So that sounds really great.
I'm glad it's a nice big walk around so you can kind of burn off things as you're grazing.
Nice. Grazing a lot.
Looking forward to it.
Speaking of some other places you can be grazing at, between Morocco and France pavilions, you'll find the new smoked salmon potato latkes at the L'Chaim. I didn't do that right. L'Chaim at Holiday Kitchen, where the pastrami on rye with house-made pickles and deli mustard is a returning favorite. So that sounds really good too.
I'm getting so hungry.
I know. We always do these things at lunch, so we are always just absolutely famished by the time we get done with this podcast. There's some great places going on at Canada with the Canadian wild rice soup and ham soup, with a pretzel roll at the Yukon Holiday Kitchen, which also brings back its popular seared Verlasso salmon with crown maple whiskey glaze, parsnip silk, apple chutney, and a hazelnut croquant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Yes.
So
sign me up.
No question. Now, if you like your holiday treats more on the sweet side, or maybe the baked side anyway, there's going to be the holiday cookie stroll, which will be rewarding fun for the family and gives everyone a chance to explore the festival with baked goodies offered at several holiday kitchens. Yes.
Cool.
So here's the cookies that will be available for you. At the Bavaria Holiday Kitchen, they had the Linzer cookie. At the American Holiday Table, they have the gingerbread cookie. Yukon Holiday Kitchen has the peppermint pinwheel cookie. Feast of the Three Kings has the chocolate crinkle cookie, and the L'Chaim Holiday Kitchen has black and white cookie. It has a black and white cookie, and if you choose any 5 cookies featured in your festival passport and you collect matching stamps, you will receive a complimentary Santa Claus.
Oh my gosh.
Santa Mickey. That's why I was
Take
having
two.
a problem. Yes. Santa Mickey sugar cookie at the Holiday Sweets and Treats location. So if you get all those cookies, you can get another cookie.
Nice. The adventure is on.
Yeah, the cookie adventure begins.
Yes.
So that's it for my Disney stories of the week.
I have one.
Oh, Michelle has a Disney story.
Just a really
Yay,
quick-
that's so exciting. Love Michelle's Disney stories
It's
of
just
the
a
week.
little one, but I think you'll be interested in this one. So, as you mentioned, we're recording this on Sunday, September 22nd. Tomorrow on Good Morning America is a new trailer for Frozen 2.
That's right. By the time you heard this, it's probably already out because many of you listen to this on Monday morning or
Right.
Monday during the day. But just the same, yes, I was excited when I saw that. I'm looking forward to seeing the new Frozen 2 trailer. We got some great footage when we were at D23 Expo 2019. And I'm
Right.
looking to see what the trailer consists of coming up tomorrow morning. And if you're listening to this, on whatever date through the week, today, yesterday, a couple days ago, whatever the case may be, but it's exciting news,
Right.
for sure.
And if you haven't heard about it or seen it yet, then check it out.
Yep, definitely check it out. I'm sure it's going to be all over social media.
I'm
so,
sure.
Yep.
So.
That's great. And yes.
But you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. If you happen
Not really.
to. No, you probably didn't hear it here first. But it's still good news, and we're excited to see it. So.
And one other announcement
one other.
is that D23 announced that the Disney archives do have props from Lost.
Which we are we are Losties. We were
Yeah.
fans of Lost. We watched it from the beginning to the end.
Hard to believe 15th year anniversary.
I'm getting so old.
But the other exciting thing is the Disney Archives is getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary in 2020, and they're going to have a lot of exciting things coming up there. So we'll be sharing that with you as they get announced,
Right.
and hopefully we'll get to partake in some of them.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that, if you happen to be a D23 Gold or Gold family member, and actually I think they've opened it up to even other members now, sometimes during the year, but if you do go on the Walt Disney Studios tour in Burbank, which we highly recommend because it's amazing and it's something that everybody who's a Disney fan should do at some point.
Right.
One of the parts of that is also a trip to the Walt Disney Archives. And
Yes.
so you get to see a lot of great stuff. When we were there, we got to hold one of the Oscars
Right.
that they actually had won and saw lots of things that were signed by Walt themselves, some
Yes,
contracts and some other
unbelievable.
things. And just a lot of cool stuff from yesterday that from the parks, from the studios. It's an amazing part of the experience for sure.
Yeah, and it just makes you feel a little bit more appreciative of what we get to experience at a Disney park.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. So anyway, Michelle always has great stories.
Yeah,
So I'm
two
glad
little announcements.
she
Yeah.
got to. So that was her great stories. Now we get from Michelle's great stories to Michelle's great tips. We never leave you on any episode without trying to give you some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation, whether it be to the parks, whether it be to Disney Cruise, Run Disney. By the way, congratulations to everyone that were at the Run Disney weekend, the Disneyland Paris Run weekend that was just over the weekend. Looked like it was a great time
looked
had by
fun.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are are looking forward to eventually getting out there and running those races. Now that they're opening up a new one,
Right,
in
the
spring,
Princess.
yeah, we may be trying to get that done and get our Castle to Chateau medals as well.
Yes.
So, anyway, congratulations to all of you that took part in those races. They look like a lot of fun. But now back to what I'm talking about, and that is the tips of the week. And we always start with Michelle because she has the absolute best tips. So let's get right to it. Here's Michelle's tip of the week.
You're so kind. Love is blind. But thank you, honey. I really appreciate that. You have great tips also. So my tip was inspired by our trip to the Oogie Boogie Bash. And this tip hopefully would be for that or for other types of events that you may get to experience at a Disney park. But ours is bring a backpack. And I know it's easy to just go through, especially when they have that no bags line. But for example, we did trick-or-treating, and especially if you have kids, and not so much that of having to empty your bag so you can get more, but more just the ability to have that candy enclosed. So if you're going to do attractions and everything, you don't have your kids or yourselves, trying to hold a candy bag and things spilling out and like, oh, okay, lost half my treats there. I know for kids that would be devastating to happen. So bring a backpack, that keeps your hands free then to either snack on more food or, like I said, really get to explore an attraction without losing your candy.
Right. That's a good point. And definitely our backpack was loaded up because I had to wear that thing. Oh my goodness. That thing was loaded with candy. It was very heavy by the end of the night. And
we didn't go through any of them twice.
Right.
We went once through and we didn't hit all of them.
No, there was at least one I know of
right.
that we didn't get to at some point. So that was really cool. And we don't eat that much candy. We'll eat a little bit of it, but here's another tip. Take advantage of all that candy they give you. Use it on your Halloween night.
That's true. Great for
kids.
trick-or-treaters. Coming to our house. That's
if you can pry it away from your own hands and your kids' hands, you might want to use that a little bit for your trick-or-treat evenings when the people come to your door.
Right. And the other thing that kind of goes along with that is, also our lesson learned is really plan ahead where you want to eat and, try to figure out when you can get that in because these events are very busy. They can be if you're trying to get into everything or, pick up some attractions that are typically long waits. You can get to experience those with a shorter line and you might find yourself pretty hungry suddenly and hadn't thought about it. So try to have that plan ahead of time too.
Yes, that's a good point. We did wind up into that situation. It sounded like we just ate all the way through it that night. But, we had this, we had that, we had the corn dog. But we actually ran into support. So we're really hungry. We need to figure out where we want to eat.
Getting close to being hangry there.
Yes. So, I'm glad we got that taken care of. My tip of the week actually also has to do sort of with the Oogie Boogie Bash, but it pretty much has to do with nighttime spectaculars in general. Now, when you go to I've actually brought this tip up before, but we took advantage of it during our time at the Oogie Boogie Bash as well. If you go to these events at night or to a park at night or whatever, and you look for their nighttime spectaculars, whatever the case may be, check and see if there's only one show or if there happens to be two shows. And if there are two shows, take advantage of going to the second one. If you can last long enough to go to it, go to the second one because you'll have a much easier time finding a great spot to watch the show. Most everyone is going to go to the first show. It'll be a little more difficult. People will be waiting for longer to get there. And so you might have less of a chance to actually go and get a great spot to watch it, which is always key with us because Michelle is vertically challenged and she has some struggles sometimes in these crowds of seeing many of these events really well. So we took advantage of this. There were two shows of the World of Color, Villainous. Mm-hmm. We took advantage and went to the second show, and we showed up like 15 minutes before it began. Got a good spot right where Michelle could see pretty clearly without too much in front of her.
A lot of choices.
Yeah, and it was just a lot less crowded that time, and that goes for the Oogie Boogie Bash, but I think that goes for many of the nighttime spectaculars that have two shows. People will go to the original one, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's it. That's our night," and they'll start to either go shopping or get out of there. Meanwhile, you could take advantage of that time while they're there and smaller lines at the restaurants or smaller lines at the attractions or whatever. Take advantage of that, and then go to the later show and not have to wait there as long and still get possibly a better spot.
Very good.
So
good tip, baby.
Yeah, that's one I've used in the past, but it just came again this week that we used it again. So we would recommend that at any time. Again, not everybody can stay up to the second show. I understand
or
that.
If you have kids.
Right.
But
if you can, do it. Take advantage of it. So that's it for this week. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but we'll just discuss it again. Next week, we'll be continuing our Star Wars Remembered series with a look at many of Star Wars fans' favorite movie in the series, The Empire Strikes Back. That's episode 5, of course. And Rob Labarre, who you heard from a little bit ago from the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, will be joining us again for that to bring his incredible Star Wars depth of knowledge to it. That way, because we just talk about, look, something shiny, but he really knows his stuff. And he doesn't make you feel like a jerk, so that's the best part about it. So we hope you will, tune in for that episode or download that episode or whatever it is anymore. I'm such a radio history. I'm always tune in. No one tunes into a podcast anymore. Anyway, I'm getting silly now. We need to start wrapping this up. Yes, we need to start wrapping this up. Please follow us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast, and email us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And if you get a chance to give us a rating and even better, a review, really appreciate that. That helps our podcast grow and it helps us improve or get to know what you really like so that we can continue doing that for you. And it's just a great thing for any podcast.
Yeah, any podcast that you love. Tell a friend about them.
Yes.
It's the easiest thing to do. But if you go in there are places where you can give reviews on many of these different podcast sites, but especially Apple Podcasts. That's the most important one. You can go on there and give a rating. If you have a little more time, give a review. It just helps whatever podcast you like. Hopefully it's this one, but whatever one are your favorites. It just helps people find them. They come up on searches that much more quickly, and then people can look and see what others have said about them and everything. It just helps promote all the different podcasts that you love.
Yes. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for doing that, and thank you for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. But until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.